Maple Hollow, Iowa is the kind of town that looks harmless from a distance. A few stoplights. A diner with the same pie rotating in the glass case every morning. Lawns that get mowed like religion. People who wave even when they don't like you because manners are the last thing they can control. At night, the quiet isn't peaceful. It's judgmental. It presses in from the cornfields and the empty county roads, and it makes every sound in a house feel like a confession. A creak, a sigh, a cabinet closing too hard, a voice raised just a notch. That night it was past 10. The rest of the neighborhood was dark except for a handful of porch bulbs and the occasional blue flicker of a TV through blinds. Our kitchen was lit by a single yellow pendant lamp that made everything look tired. Our cups, our counters, even the table where I sat. I was at the kitchen table with Haley, my stepdaughter, and she was doing that thing teenagers do when they're trying not to look like they need help. Her pencil kept tapping the paper like it was negotiating terms. She had algebra open on one side, an essay outline on the other, and the look on her face said she'd rather be anywhere else, including a dentist chair with no anesthesia. "Okay," I said, keeping my voice low so I didn't turn it into a lecture. "You don't have to love it. You just have to understand it." Haley rolled her eyes, but it wasn't mean. Not yet. More like a reflex, a shield. "I do understand it," she lied. I didn't call her out. I slid the paper closer. "Show me what you did." She pointed at a line of work that went sideways somewhere around step 3. She had the right instinct, wrong execution. Like someone building a bridge but missing 2 bolts and pretending gravity will respect her confidence. I took a breath and did what I always did. I showed up. Not with grand speeches or forced bonding. Just presence. Patience. The kind that doesn't sparkle, doesn't make anyone clap. The kind that gets used up and never gets replaced. "Look," I said, tapping the equation. "When you move that term, you have to do it to both sides. Everything stays balanced. That's the whole point. If you only move it on one side, you're not solving it, you're just wishing." Haley frowned, reworked the line, then the next. Something clicked. You can see it in a kid's eyes when something finally makes sense. Like a door opening in a hallway they thought was bricked up. "Oh," she murmured, quiet like she didn't want to admit the relief. "Yeah," I said. "There you go. You're not bad at this. You're just mad at it." She snorted, almost smiled, and for a second it felt normal. Not perfect. Not some movie version of stepdad and stepdaughter magically healing their family with math. Just normal. Then I heard footsteps. Megan, my wife. Not rushing. Not hurried. Just the measured pace of someone who expects the house to move around her. She walked past the kitchen entryway, headed toward the hallway, probably for water or to check the thermostat like she always did before bed. She stopped. Not because she was surprised to see me helping. I'd done it before. I'd helped with science projects and book reports and filling out school forms that Megan forgot about until the deadline was a threat. She stopped because she wanted to remind me where I stood. Her eyes moved from Haley's paper to my hand resting on the edge of the table, then to my face. And there was nothing warm there. No gratitude. No softness. Just that flat look people get when they're about to make something clear, something cruel. "These are my children," she said. The words sat there, heavy. I waited for the rest, like maybe it would turn into something reasonable. Maybe she'd say it was late and Haley needed sleep. Maybe she'd say she wanted to handle school stuff her way. But she didn't. She tilted her head slightly, as if she was studying a stain on the carpet. "You have no right to teach them. No right. Not thank you. Not let me do it. Not we should both help. No right. Like I was a stranger. Like I was a temp worker in her home, hired for utility, not belonging." Haley's pencil stopped mid-tap. She didn't look up. She didn't defend me. She didn't even flinch in protest. She just stared at her worksheet like it was suddenly the safest place in the world to keep her eyes. That silence did something to me. It didn't explode. It didn't create a scene. It just settled. Like dust. Megan didn't argue. Didn't wait for my response. She turned and walked away, bare feet on hardwood, disappearing down the hallway like she'd completed a task. The refrigerator hummed. The clock over the stove ticked. Outside, a car passed on the distant road, tires whispering over asphalt like the town was trying not to witness what just happened. I sat there, feeling the heat in my face, the tightness in my throat, the body's instinct to defend itself. And I didn't, because I knew something I didn't want to admit. If I spoke, Megan would act like I was overreacting. If I protested, she would call it drama. If I demanded respect, she'd say I was making it about me. So I swallowed it. I always swallowed it. Haley cleared her throat like she wanted to pretend nothing happened. So, for the essay, she said, voice small. I stared at the numbers on the page, the variables, the balance, the logic, and I wondered what kind of man sits at his own table, paying his own mortgage, and gets told he has no right to be involved in the lives living under his roof. I helped Haley finish anyway, because leaving her stranded would have been punishing a kid for her mother's cruelty. And despite everything, I never wanted to be that man. But something in me shifted while I explained her thesis statement. I started noticing patterns. Like once you see a crack in glass, you can't stop seeing it. After that night, everything in the house started running her way. Not our way. Not shared. Not negotiated. Hers. The rules got weirdly specific. I wasn't supposed to discipline the kids, meaning I couldn't correct Braden when he spoke like a bully, or tell Haley to put her phone down when she was failing classes because she lived on TikTok and avoidance. I was expected to pay, though. That part never changed. Activities? Me. School clothes? Me. Field trips and school fees? Me. Insurance premiums that never stopped climbing? Me. The minivan repairs when the check engine light became a permanent feature? Me. I was the hand that fed the house, but I wasn't allowed to have a voice. And Braden, Megan's son, learned fast what kind of man I was in that setup. He started talking to me like I was an ATM. Not metaphorically, literally. He'd walk into the room, not even say hello, and go, I need $40. For what? I'd ask. He'd sigh like I was inconveniencing him. For stuff. Stuff. Always stuff. If I pressed, Megan would appear like a shadow and say, just give it to him. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a thing. That was her favorite phrase. It meant, don't ask questions, don't expect gratitude, don't claim authority, don't demand respect. Just give. Just pay. Just be useful and quiet. Meanwhile, Travis, their biological father, was treated like a legend. He didn't live in our home, but he lived in their mouths. He said he might come by next weekend. He's busy with work. He's trying, okay? He understands us. Travis was always about to show up. Always planning. Always meaning to. And somehow always excused. He missed birthdays. Missed games. Missed parent-teacher conferences. Missed the boring stuff, the real stuff, the stuff that makes a parent a parent. But he'd send a text once in a while and it would light up the kids like a religious miracle. And me? I was the guy who drove them to practice. The guy who paid for the cleats. The guy who stood in the cold bleachers while Braden ignored me and scanned the crowd for a father who wasn't there. I remember one night Braden came home angry because Travis had promised to come to a game and didn't. He threw his bag by the door and said, loud enough for me to hear, he would have come if Mom didn't pick you. Like I was the reason his father failed him. Like I was the villain for staying. Megan didn't correct him. She didn't say, that's not fair. She didn't say, don't talk to him like that. She just sighed and said, Braden's upset. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. How do you not take it personally when the people you feed look at you like you're the reason they're starving? There were little moments, too. Quiet ones. Haley would talk about Dad's rules, even though Dad wasn't the one enforcing anything. Braden would say, my dad would have gotten me a better one when I bought him something practical instead of flashy. Megan would say, my kids, in front of me like she was marking territory. It made the house feel unbalanced. Like a table with one leg shorter than the rest, always rocking, always unstable, always threatening to spill whatever you placed on it. And I started to feel it in my own body. The way my shoulders tensed when Megan walked into a room. The way I stopped offering opinions because they were treated like intrusions. The way I'd come home from work and sit in the driveway for an extra minute because going inside felt like stepping into a place where I was tolerated, not wanted. I didn't want applause. I didn't need them to call me Dad. I wasn't chasing some fantasy where they'd suddenly cry and thank me and tell me I saved them. I just wanted the minimum, basic respect. A seat at the table I paid for without being told I didn't belong there. But in Maple Hollow, respect isn't something you demand. It's something you're either granted or denied quietly until you start believing you deserve the denial. And that's the dangerous part. Because once you accept being treated like a tool, they stop seeing you as a person at all. They see you as a function, a bill payer, a driver, a background noise that keeps the lights on. That night at the kitchen table didn't fade. It grew. It followed me into every automatic payment, every receipt, every time I pulled out my card without anyone even looking me in the eye. You have no right. Those words became the soundtrack of my giving. And the more I gave, the smaller I became. Until one day I realized I wasn't being pushed out. I had already been written out. And the only reason the house still needed me was because the bills didn't care about blood. The bills only cared about names. I didn't know it yet, but the moment was coming when I'd finally stop swallowing it. When I'd finally let the house feel what it was like without my quiet labor propping it up. When the legend would be forced to become real, and the crack would become a break. The weekend in Ridgeport, Wisconsin was supposed to be harmless. Megan called it family night. Said we needed to get out of Maple Hollow. Said the kids deserved something fun. I drove. Of course I drove. The SUV was packed with coolers, folding chairs, bags of snacks I had paid for, and a stack of board games Braden insisted we bring but would never touch. Megan sat in the passenger seat texting. Haley had her headphones in. Braden was scrolling, laughing at something on his phone. No one spoke to me unless they needed something. Turn the air down. Stop for gas. Can you grab drinks when we get there? Can you? Always can you. Never thank you. Ridgeport looked like every other lake town trying to pretend it was bigger than it was. Polished docks, clean porches, people who wore comfort like it was inherited. Megan's friends welcomed her like she was returning royalty. Hugs, laughter, that tight circle that doesn't widen. I carried the coolers inside. I set up the folding table. I arranged the food. I paid for the extra pizzas when someone decided we didn't have enough. No one asked if I wanted a drink. I poured my own. Travis's name came up within the first hour. Of course it did. Someone asked, "So are the kids seeing their dad much these days?" I felt it before Megan answered. That slight shift in her posture. That performative softness. She smiled. Not at me. At least they still have Travis, she said. He's the only one who truly understands them. The only one. The word hit different when spoken in front of an audience. Laughter. Nods. Someone said, "That's so important for kids." I stood there holding a paper plate, listening to my erasure happen in real time. No one looked at me. No one corrected it. Megan didn't glance my way. Not once. I was the driver, the sponsor, the background detail in someone else's narrative. Braden leaned back in his chair later that night and said, loud enough for the group, "Yeah, my dad gets me. He just does. Just does." I wondered what exactly Travis did. He didn't pay for the car sitting in our driveway. Didn't pay for the cleats. Didn't pay for Haley's braces. Didn't pay the mortgage that allowed Megan to host her curated little life. But he got them. And apparently that was enough. I stepped outside at one point, stood near the lake while the sound of conversation floated through the open windows. The water was dark. Still, I replayed her words. The only one who truly understands them. I had spent years trying to understand them, learning Haley's moods, knowing when Braden was angry before he admitted it, covering expenses quietly so they never had to feel instability. And I was still temporary, still optional, still not real. That was the moment something stopped fighting inside me. It wasn't explosive. It was clean, like a switch flipping. I realized I wasn't being excluded by accident. I was being defined. Driver, payer, utility, not father, not partner, Utility. On the ride back to Maple Hollow, Megan talked about how nice it was to be around people who get it. I asked, carefully, "Get what?" She looked out the window. "The kids. They're dynamic. It's complicated." Complicated. "Yes," I said. "It is." She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't want to know. That night, after the house went quiet, I sat at the kitchen table again. The same table. The same light. Only this time there were no math problems. Just my laptop. I opened our banking app. Shared accounts. Auto-pay schedules. Subscription bundles. Insurance drafts. Sports league fees scheduled for next month. Internet package tied to the house. Credit card auto-payment Megan treated like a bottomless pit. Everything flowed through me. Every comfort. Every convenience. Every illusion of stability. And suddenly I understood something brutal. They didn't need me. They needed my payments. So I did something that felt less like revenge and more like accounting. I transferred responsibility. Every shared bill I legally could, I reassigned to Travis. Not illegally. Not fraudulently. I simply removed myself. Updated contact numbers. Shifted primary responsibility where paperwork allowed it. Changed auto drafts tied to my personal account. Then I canceled what wasn't mine to carry. Braden's upcoming sports league fee? Canceled. Family internet bundle under my card? Canceled. Auto pay on the credit card Megan never monitored? Stopped. I didn't scream. I didn't send dramatic texts. I didn't threaten anyone. I just aligned reality with their narrative. They wanted the real father. Fine. Reality comes with invoices. When I closed the laptop, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not anger. Not joy. Just clarity. If Travis was the only one who truly understood them, then he could truly provide for them. I went to bed without saying a word. Morning came like it always does in Maple Hollow. Soft light through thin curtains. The hum of appliances starting their day. Megan didn't notice anything at first. Braden didn't either. Haley left for school unaware that the ground beneath her routines had already shifted. Took less than 24 hours. The first notification came mid-afternoon. A bounced payment alert. Then another. Then a call Megan didn't answer because she didn't recognize the number. By evening, her tone had changed. "What did you do?" she asked, phone in hand. Screen lit with missed calls. I looked at her calmly. "I listened." She frowned. "To what?" "To you." The confusion on her face was almost impressive. "I'm not following. You said they're your children, that I have no right." Her mouth tightened. "So I stepped back." Her voice rose. "You don't get to just step back from family." I held her gaze. Apparently, I was never part of it. Silence fell heavy between us. Braden came into the room then. Phone pressed to his ear. "They're saying my registration didn't go through," he snapped. "The deadline's tomorrow." Megan looked at me like I had set the house on fire. I didn't move. "Call your dad," I said quietly. The room went still. Braden blinked. "What?" "Call the one who truly understands you." Megan's face drained of color. "You're being ridiculous," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm being consistent." That night, Travis didn't show up. Not out of pride. Not out of responsibility. He didn't show up at all. And for the first time, the legend had to face paperwork. The house felt different. Less stable. More honest. And I felt something settle in my chest that had been restless for years. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a correction. They had drawn the line. I simply stopped standing on the wrong side of it. And now the bill had come due. The first bounced payment didn't scare Megan. Not at first. She treated it like a typo in reality. Like the universe had misfiled a form and would correct itself the moment she frowned hard enough. I watched her stand at the kitchen island, phone in hand, tapping her screen with impatient nails. Her brow tightened. Her mouth did that thing it always did when something stopped obeying her. Tight, offended, like the world had stepped out of line. "It says the card declined," she muttered. Braden didn't even look up from the couch. "So use a different one." Megan's eyes flicked toward me without turning her head all the way. A glance. A silent expectation. Fix it. Make the invisible machine work again. I didn't move. I just kept rinsing a coffee mug at the sink like nothing in this house was collapsing. Because for once I wanted it to collapse. Not in flames. Not in screaming. Just the slow loss of comfort. The kind of loss that makes people finally notice what they've been standing on. By the next morning, it wasn't just one payment. It was a chain. Internet bundle suspended. Streaming accounts logging out. Insurance autodraft rejected. A reminder email from Braden Sports League blinking like a warning light. Registration incomplete. Payment required. Megan kept refreshing screens like she could outstare the truth. This doesn't make sense, she said, voice louder now. These are set up. They've always been set up. Haley drifted into the kitchen, backpack slung on, eyes flicking toward the router lights like they were a sick animal. Wi-Fi's down, she said. Not a question. An accusation. Megan snapped. I know. Haley's gaze cut toward me, sharp and quick. She didn't say anything, but it was there. That silent teenage math. If the money's weird, it's him. Braden stomped down the hallway, cleats in hand. Practice starts in an hour, he said. Coach said if my registration isn't in by today, I'm off the roster. Megan's throat worked like she swallowed something bitter. We'll handle it. Braden threw his cleats onto the floor like a challenge. Handle it how? Silence. Because the way they'd handled it for months, years, was by letting me handle it. Quietly. Automatically. Without thanks. Without permission to matter. Megan's phone rang again. Unknown number. She ignored it. It rang again. Ignored. Third time. She answered with the forced sweetness she used on strangers. Hello. Her expression changed mid-sentence. The sweetness fell off like a mask slipping. What? No, who is this? Then, louder. Why are you calling me? Her eyes snapped to me again. Full this time. Not a glance. A stare. She lowered the phone and whispered, It's the bank. I nodded like she'd told me the weather. Megan turned away and paced toward the hallway, voice climbing. No, listen, this is a mistake. It's our account. That word again. She still wanted our when it meant protection. Still wanted our when it meant things got paid. Still wanted our when it meant her life stayed smooth. But when it meant authority, respect, or partnership. Then it was my children. Then it was no right. The house started filling with a new kind of quiet. Not peace. Panic. It moved through the rooms like cold air under a door. The kids didn't joke. Megan stopped scrolling. Even the way she walked changed. Faster, stiffer, like she was trying to outrun consequences. And Travis? Travis didn't appear like a hero. He didn't show up at the door with a grin and a wallet and a speech about family. He didn't call to ask how the kids were holding up. He didn't call Megan to apologize. He didn't call me to fight. Nothing. The legend stayed a legend. Until 2:17 a.m. That's when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. The room was dark. Megan was asleep beside me, facing away, her back rigid even in sleep like her body didn't trust me anymore. The screen showed an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A few seconds later, the notification popped up. New voicemail. I didn't play it right away. I stared at the screen in the dark, feeling that strange calm I'd been carrying since Ridgeport. Like I'd already stepped out of the role and was just watching the stage lights flicker behind me. Then I pressed play. A raspy voice, irritated and half awake, filled the quiet of our bedroom. Yeah. This is Travis. No hello. No warmth. Just the name like it should open doors. What the hell did you do? He said. I got people calling me. I got accounts, stuff's in my name. I didn't sign up for this. So, fix it. Put it back. Whatever you did, reverse it. That was it. No, how are the kids? No, are they okay? No, I should have done more. Just inconvenience. Just paperwork. Just the sound of a man angry that reality had finally noticed him. I lay there with the phone in my hand and listened to the voicemail twice. Not because I didn't understand it. Because I did. Perfectly. Travis wasn't a father. He was a myth the kids used like a weapon. And Megan had helped sharpen it. In the morning, the house felt like a place holding its breath. Megan was already up, hair pulled back, phone in her hand like it was a life raft. She didn't look at me at first. She moved around the kitchen with clipped motions, opening drawers, shutting them, rechecking the same notifications like maybe they'd changed out of pity. Then she spoke without turning around. You need to fix this. Not can we talk. Not what's happening. Need. Like I was still the function. I poured coffee slowly. Fix what? Megan spun then, eyes red not from tears, yet, but from strain. Don't do that. Don't act stupid. Travis called. He said accounts are in his name. He's freaking out. The internet is off. Braden's registration. Call him, I said. Her jaw clenched. I did. He's not answering now. Shocking. Megan's nostrils flared. This is hurting the kids. The kids. Always the kids. Like they were shields she could hold up to make me fold again. Haley came in, phone in hand, frustration written across her face. Mom, I can't even submit my homework. The Wi-Fi's gone. Braden followed, already angry, already blaming. Coach said I'm done if it's not paid today. Megan looked at me like I was holding a gun. I looked back like I was holding a mirror. This is your fault, she said, voice tight. You're doing this because you're bitter. I nodded once. No, I'm doing it because I finally listened. Braden scoffed. Listen to what? I set my mug down gently. To the rules in this house. Megan stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was trying to keep the kids from hearing her desperation. We need to fix this. Put it back the way it was. Put it back. Like the disrespect. Like the erasure. Like the nights at the kitchen table where I had no right. I studied her face, and it hit me again. This wasn't about family. This was about convenience. Megan wasn't asking me to come back because she missed me. She was asking me to come back because the system was failing without my money inside it. Her phone started buzzing again. Texts now, rapid. I saw them flash on her screen as she typed like her fingers were on fire. We need to fix this. You owe us. You're hurting the kids. Owe us. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Not even let's talk. Just debt. Just entitlement. And in that moment, I felt something settle in my chest so clean it was almost peaceful. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't a tantrum. It was a correction. They had spent months, years, telling me who mattered. They had crowned Travis in conversation and treated me like a wallet with legs. So I gave them what they asked for. The real father. And the reality attached to him. Megan's voice cracked. Michael, please. She used my name like a lever. Like it used to mean something. I stood up, slow, steady. You told me I had no right. Her eyes darted toward the kids, then back. That's not what I meant. It's what you said. Haley stared at the floor. Braden stared at me like he couldn't decide whether to hate me or fear me. Megan's lips trembled. So what now? You're just going to let everything fall apart? I held her gaze. It already did. You just didn't notice because I kept paying for the illusion. And that was the moment I realized something else. Something colder. They didn't miss me. They missed what I covered. And now, with the bills bouncing and the legend refusing to show up, they were finally forced to face what they'd built their pride on. A ghost. A myth. A father who couldn't even handle a phone call without sounding annoyed. Megan's hands tightened into fists at her sides. You're destroying this family. I exhaled slowly. No. I looked at the kids, then back at her. I'm just leaving the role you assigned me. After that morning, the house stopped pretending. The air changed. The rooms felt narrower. The silence wasn't neutral anymore, it had teeth. Megan kept moving like the day could be negotiated back into place if she stayed busy enough. She made calls, left voicemails, argued with automated systems, and wrote checks that wouldn't clear because the money wasn't where she assumed it would be. Watching her was like watching someone slam their shoulder into a locked door and blaming the wood. The kids started orbiting her, not me. Not for comfort, for reassurance, for some promise that the old world, the one where consequences never stuck, would return if they complained hard enough. Haley tried to do homework using her phone's hotspot until it ran out. She threw the phone onto the couch like it had betrayed her, then stood in the doorway of the kitchen with that teenage stare that's half anger, half panic. "This is stupid," she said. I didn't react. She waited for me to argue, to defend myself, to offer fixes, to do the thing I always did, step forward, patch the hole, absorb the damage. When I stayed quiet, her voice sharpened. "Mom says you're doing this to punish us." I looked up slowly. "Your mom says a lot of things when she's scared." Haley flinched like I'd said a swear word. Braden reacted differently. He got loud. He stomped and slammed and announced his suffering like the house was a courtroom and he was the injured party. "You're ruining my season," he snapped at dinner, staring at his empty plate like it offended him. "Coach said I'm done. You know how hard I worked?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the irony was too clean. Hard work. He said it like he knew the definition. Megan shot me a warning look. The kind she used when she wanted me to play along. To keep the peace. To let Braden rage without consequences because consequences were too harsh. I didn't look away. "Call Travis," I said, calm as a flat road. Braden's face twisted. "Stop saying that." "Why?" I asked. "Isn't he the one who truly understands you?" Megan's jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. "That's enough," she hissed. I leaned back in my chair. No, enough was years ago. The next few days were ugly in a quiet way. Not screaming every hour. Not dramatic breakdowns on the floor. Just constant friction. Little sparks every time they tried to use a system that wasn't being propped up anymore. The internet company wouldn't restore service without payment. The sports league wouldn't hold Braden's spot. The insurance office kept calling about drafts that didn't go through. Megan's credit card started barking in emails. Minimum due, late fee pending, account flagged. Each notification was a small slap. Each slap made Megan more frantic. She kept trying to speak to me like we were still on the same team. Like none of this had been the result of her own words. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she said one night, standing in the kitchen with her arms folded tight across her chest. "We're married. We're supposed to support each other." Support. I set down the dish towel in my hand and turned to face her. "Support goes both ways." She blinked. "I do support you." I shook my head slowly. "You support my paycheck. Not me." Her mouth opened, then closed again. Because she knew. She knew exactly what I meant. She just wanted me to stop saying it out loud. "Michael," she said, softer now, trying a different key. "This is hurting them." I nodded once. Yes. That single word made her recoil. She expected guilt. She expected me to fold at the word, kids. Like it was a magic spell that erased what had been done to me. But guilt only works when you still believe you're responsible for a role you've been denied. And I had been denied it for years. I'd just been too loyal to admit it. By the end of the week, Travis finally answered one of Megan's calls. I didn't hear his voice directly. I heard Megan's side, pacing through the living room like a trapped animal. "No, you have to," she snapped. "They're your kids too." Pause. Her face tightened further. "I don't care what you can't do, Travis. They need." Another pause. Then Megan's voice changed into something small, almost embarrassed. "Because he won't." She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. She was telling her legend the truth. The ghost wasn't being carried anymore. The myth had been handed a spreadsheet. When she hung up, her shoulders dropped like she'd aged 10 years in one conversation. "Well?" I asked. She stared at the floor. "He said he can't." I nodded as if this was the most predictable thing on earth. Megan's eyes flashed with anger again. Anger that had nowhere safe to land, so it circled back to me. "Are you happy now?" she demanded. "You made your point." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move closer. I just said it plainly. This wasn't a point. It was the truth catching up. That night, Braden didn't come home until late. Megan called him 3 times and he ignored her. When he finally walked in, his face was hard, jaw clenched. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask how to fix things. He just threw his bag down and said, "Dad didn't answer. Dad, not me. Still not me." Even in crisis, the loyalty stayed aimed at the man who wouldn't pick up the phone. Haley went quiet after that. The kind of quiet that isn't peace, it's calculation. She watched Megan cry in the laundry room. She watched Braden rage at nothing. She watched me stay calm like calmness was its own form of cruelty. Megan tried to corner me in our bedroom 2 nights later, shutting the door like she could trap the old version of me inside. "You're acting like we betrayed you," she whispered. I looked at her in the dim light and felt something sharp and exhausted rise in my chest. "You did." She shook her head. "No, that's dramatic." I smiled once, without warmth. "Is it? You told me I had no right. You praised another man in front of everyone as the only one who understands them. You let your son speak to me like I'm a vending machine. And when I stopped paying, you didn't ask how I felt." Her eyes darted away. "Because the kids. There," I said, cutting her off softly. "That's the point. It's always the kids. Always their needs. Always their feelings. And mine are treated like an inconvenience." Megan's voice cracked. "So what do you want?" I thought about that. Not the fantasy answer. Not the movie scene where everyone cries and apologizes and suddenly understands what I've endured. The real answer. "I want to be seen," I said. "And if I can't be seen here, then I want to be free." That word free hit her like a slap, because she understood what it meant. It meant I wasn't just turning off payments. I was turning off access. To my labor. To my patience. To the version of me that kept absorbing disrespect because it was easier than breaking the illusion. By the following week, the house had become a place of small humiliations. Megan borrowing money from her sister and pretending it was temporary. Braden's coach officially removing him from the roster. Haley trying to do schoolwork at the library and coming home bitter. The credit card company calling twice a day. And Travis? Travis stayed gone. The myth didn't turn into a man. It just stayed a story they told themselves so they wouldn't have to respect the one person who actually showed up. Megan finally stopped texting me orders and started texting me panic. "Please, we can talk. This is getting out of control." But even then, not once did she text. "I'm sorry." Not once did she say, "I was wrong to say you had no right." She wanted the machine turned back on. She didn't want to admit she'd treated a person like a machine in the first place. And that's when I understood the last lesson. One I wish I'd learned years earlier. If someone only values you when you're paying, then they don't value you. They value what you cover. They value the silence you buy for them. They value the comfort you finance. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So I stood in that same kitchen, my kitchen, the one I paid for, and I looked at the people who had called me nothing in 1,000 different ways. I felt calm. Not because it felt good. Because it felt finished. Now tell me, if you were in my place, after years of being reduced to a wallet and a chauffeur, after being told you had no right to even teach a child at your own table, would you have kept paying to stay tolerated? Or would you have done what I did? Hand the legend the bills and finally walk out of the role they already erased you from?